This is Don't Mind
While We Unwind. Just to recap, this is Don't Mind While You Unwind. We're going to talk about family, industry, and leisure. 3 things that are important in our life.
Our biggest feedback has been that you have a radio voice. So
I have a voice for radio and I have a face for radio. Just kidding. Check us out on YouTube right here.
Almost Happy New Year. That's exciting. 2023 around the corner.
Right. We're kind of in that week in between, Christmas and New Year's. I've been talking to some friends this week about just traveling around the holidays. I know a few people ran into some trouble. You had a friend who got stuck up in New York and they had to drive back down. And it made me think, what are some funny travel stories? What, it could be a disaster, it could be funny. What's something that's happened to you? Doesn't have to be recent. Doesn't have to be together, but
yeah, well, first of all, my sympathies go out to anyone that was attempting to travel, especially by air over the holidays. That's just crazy. One of my funniest travel stories was less about the element of traveling, but it had to do with me going to this new city that I wasn't really prepared for. And it was right after I got my job working at Porsche. I was going up to train at one of their offices in Chicago. And as a little southerner right out of college, I packed my bag. I was super excited. Well, we landed and it was 18 inches of snow, full blown blizzard. And I'm there with my Rothy flats, a light jacket, a jacket for us southerners is what, a little zip up.
This is it's packing is a part of travel, how well you pack. So this was a lesson in how not to pack when you're going to a subarctic area like Chicago.
I just had no concept of how cold it was going to be and what I was stepping out. It was honestly like a scene out of a movie, and I pop out of the airport and I'm freezing as I land.
2 questions. How cold was it? And what did you do to address this cold?
I don't know. It was 18 inches of snow. I feel like that's all I needed to say. And I ended up having to call my mom and begging her to send me a North Face jacket and a pair of boots, because the other bummer was the hotel we were staying at. We had to drive to our office each day. Well, I was only 22 years old, so I couldn't even rent a rental car at the time. So I was I need real boots because I'm literally walking through knee deep snow to get to and from this office. It was a disaster. I thought it was going to be this magical, kid going to the city.
Coming of age experience, women in the city, the windy city.
Exactly. No, it was just brutal. It did ended up being a great trip and I made the best of it. But man, what a start.
As they say, you live and you learn. And that's always kind of a thing with travel. We've made plenty of mistakes and we think we know how to do something perfectly. And then we'll just get hit with an obstacle right in the face. We're like, oh, we should have thought through that a little better. Maybe next time.
Yep. So what about you? Do you have any fun travel fiascos?
Well, I've got a couple that come to mind. One of them was, I'll do a quick one and then I'll do a family one. So the quick one was, I think it was my very first work travel trip. I'm right out of school, maybe 24 years old or something. And I get to the airport, I go to my gate, and I'm just kind of sitting there not paying attention. And then all of a sudden I look at the time and it should have boarded and taken off. I went to my seat number. My seat number was A24.
Oh
so I ended up
gosh.
at my, totally the wrong gate, wrong terminal. And I had to call my boss. I've been working there 2 months. Oh my gosh.
That's hilarious.
So, it was fine. I got on the next flight a couple hours later and it got there.
So you missed your flight.
I totally missed the flight.
Yeah.
And then once I got there, I didn't realize I couldn't rent a car because you had to be 25 to rent a car. So again, same issue you ran into. So lesson learned, don't be under 25 if you need to travel for anything. But yeah. And then
I guess nowadays, Uber, they have the benefit of that. That wasn't really a thing probably when we were both fresh out of college.
There was no Uber.
Yeah.
I took a taxi. Obviously you're in an airport and a taxi is easy to get, but even Uber gets kind of pricey. These days, if I travel for work, sometimes I'd rather have a car because those Ubers can add up, $150 from the airport to your hotel or something like that. But my family one, and this is what I was talking about, where we thought we had this all figured out. We decided we're only going to carry on. We're not going to do checked bags.
I know exactly where you're going.
You know where I'm going with this. So it's me, you, we got the 2 girls, and we got your mom with us. Yeah. And I think we're carrying on maybe 8 or 9 pieces of luggage. Like our
Right.
whole thing, it's like a 5 or 6 day trip down to the Caribbean. Another issue is we had to take like planes, trains, boats, automobiles
Yeah.
to get there. So every single step we're
Well, and
toting
each of
out.
us had, like, a carry-on and a book bag. It wasn't like we had a ton of stuff, but when you have 2 kids and you bring a carry-on and a book bag for them, oh, and then when your kids
Well, so that's the funny part. So we made this work the whole way. We got down there, we
Yeah.
had this awesome vacation. We get back, and it wasn't until our final leg back into
Mm.
Atlanta, and it's 1 in the morning, and the kids pass out. So now we've got 9 parcels of luggage and 2
And
passed
2.
out kids,
Yeah.
and we just had to beg for help. We were begging
I
people on the
think we were,
plane.
like, honestly, like, carrying the kids, and then mom would go back and get the luggage, and we would, like, somehow, like, move forward until people finally were like, "Can we please help you?" And they just carried our luggage for us to, immigration or wherever it was. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm in a weird place now because I was carry on for life. I'd done nothing but carry on up until that point. And since that moment, I think we've checked a bag every flight since that
That
experience.
was yeah, and then obviously we know, like, even in a if you're gonna check a bag, like, put the things you need in a carry-on, so usually it's like we have it divided somehow so that we can have this carry-on where we have our essentials just in case anything gets lost, but our additional stuff we put in a check
Pa-
bag.
Passports and swimsuits, the
Yeah.
only 2 things you need, unless you're going to Chicago. All right, well, we got derailed, but hopefully, and anyone out there that traveled for the holidays, you got home safely. It wasn't too bad. And now we got New Year's around the corner. So
Well, since we're on stories, I feel like with New Year's right around the corner, you might as well I know you've got a good New Year's story somewhere in you.
I've got a good New Year's story. I'm gonna tease it. I'm gonna make them wait for just a little bit. So I know that
Okay.
we're hosting. So
Yeah,
you remember
we're
that,
gonna
right? We're
have
gonna have some folks over at the house here in a couple days.
normally I'm very prepared with parties and gatherings, but lately I've just been like, here's an invite, and it kind of just forces me to get the house cleaned up the day of, and I'm like, we'll make it work. Throw some food,
A
have
woman
some
after my own heart. That
drinks,
yeah, that is my style. But we do need to do some planning. We can't give them like a 2 week old Clementine that's left. Like we have no food.
So yeah, well, we're gonna do. We thought it would be fun. In the past, actually, for New Year's when we've just celebrated at home with the girls, this is our first. I want to say, like, really, like, hang out New Year's thing since we've been together because we always just took it easy.
Yeah, one, it's hard to get a sitter. Two, you get a little
Yeah.
older and you have young kids, and you're like,
Yep.
man, I do not want to be hungover on January 1st
Right.
because your kids don't care. They didn't go out hard on the 31st.
Yeah, which is nice. So we're keeping it like super local. This is neighbors and whatnot. But we normally in the past used to do like fondue with the kids. And I thought it would be fun this year and something that's like everyone would love. It's a good, like, absorb the alcohol food. And it would be something that we could do quickly. We're going to just whip out some pizzas with this new pizza oven that we got for Christmas.
I mean, pizza party, ice cream parties, these things have been working since the dawn of time. You
We're just
always,
gonna elevate it a little bit. It's gonna be some bougie pizzas and maybe some Jenny's ice cream.
I hear you.
Maybe.
So the pizza won't be square shaped and the ice cream won't come out of a 5 gallon tub now. This isn't
Right.
the elementary school days.
Exactly.
So yeah, so we got to put that together, and yeah, I'm sure some funny stories will happen. But you asked me, and I teased it a little bit. So one that comes to mind, New Year's specifically. I'm in college, and I think I was in downtown Athens, and I ended up crashing on a buddy's. He had like one of those lofts up at the third story or whatever. And I'm nowhere near my house. I didn't have a car. I'm hungover, so it's probably 7:30 in the morning on New Year's Day, and I'm just walking down Broad Street in Athens, and I'm just gonna walk it out. I think it was like a 4 or 5 mile walk to my house. I
Oh
just
my gosh.
just start going, and I'm just trying to cross Broad over to kind of North Campus right there, and I just kind of sprint across the street. Well, blue lights. Cop chases me
Oh
down. He's like, "Hey,
no.
hey, buddy, you're jaywalking,"
Oh my
and I was
gosh.
jaywalking and hitchhiking. So I was like sticking my thumb out. And he's like, you can't do either of these things. And then I've asked the guy, I'm like, man, I'm really far from home.
Will
And
you drive me
the
home?
cops gave me a ride in the back of the
No.
squad car and dropped me off at my
Oh,
house at like 7:30 in the morning
I
on New Year's
mean,
Day.
that doesn't define you more. Like, genius, but also insanity. Like, why? I'd be way too chicken to get in the back of that car.
A high risk. That's right. Because they got the child locks on the back. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not getting out when you want to get out. You got to
That's
let the
so
chauffeur
funny.
let you out.
Well, my story, one of my girlfriends in college, we were like, we're going to go out, just the two of us, and have this great New Year's experience. And we went to Buckhead, hung out at the bars all night. But we had no idea that taxis were like a hot commodity. And again, this was pre Uber. And we were like, what do we do? How do we get home? Literally, people were like running up to cars, begging people to open their doors. And we're like, this is insane. So we were like, okay, let's start walking down Peachtree. We found this guy who was getting in his van, and we're like, what made us think this was a good idea? We're like, excuse me, can you take us back to campus? He was like, sure, hop in. Here's my card. He was a fur bus driver. So me and her in a fur bus by herself made our way back to campus. Nothing happened. It was a great ending, but could have ended tragically.
Kids, do not get into cars with strangers. A police officer is acceptable. A fur bus driver is not acceptable.
I mean, he might as well have lollipops and lured us in, but
Hey, Better Business Bureau gave them an A+ rating. So y'all made
yeah.
it home. All
Yep.
right. So holidays are done. New Year's is coming up. That's going to
Yep.
come and be gone here. So what's going on for 2023? I know you've been doing your homework here over the past week. You were reading the TikTok brief over the
Yep.
past year, and then their future trends. You did the Instagram. You're watching their guy put on his video today. So what are some takeaways that you're seeing about the social
Mm.
media area and what that's been like last year and what that's going to be like going forward?
I think something that was wildly successful for us this year that is definitely going to continue in 2023 has been incorporation of humor into short form video. I think people have just really decided and made it vocal on these platforms that they want their experience to be positive. They don't want to come on and leave the platform feeling depressed. And I think that's something that when people are looking at social media, they're being drawn naturally to these accounts that are funny, uplifting, motivating, inspirational, aspirational.
Well, not to take a huge sidetrack, but social media, you think back a few years and they took great pleasure in pitting people against each other because they
Mhm.
figured out it was driving clicks, it was driving the amount of hours they're spending, but people just felt dirty and icky afterwards. So
Mhm.
I think everyone's kind of burned out on the hollering and the yelling on social media online, at least for now. I'm sure it'll be back. But yeah, 2023, let's keep it light. Let's keep people,
Well, and I
smiling
think
to the
people so one of 3 things that, like, TikTok and Instagram are both echoing is pretty much, people want to be inspired and they want to learn or discover something on these platforms that they can take and then into their everyday real lives. So whether it's learning a cool hack or sharing a interesting way to do your makeup or a new product that will change your lives, like,
I
those
I
things
am
are
a I am a sucker for a recipe. Like
yeah,
when they show me
the
a
recipes,
recipe in
yeah.
5-10 seconds, just a couple clips. I think that's like half the meals that I cook. I'm like, oh my god, I saw this on this
He'll
Instagram
come
page,
into
and
the he literally will come into the room and be like, "Look at this recipe," and then all of a sudden he's in the pantry and in the fridge.
yeah, I mean a lot of the stuff you've already got in the pantry, so
Yeah,
I like it. So that
but
takeaway was seeing something online and then
correct,
taking that into the real world
right.
and applying that. It could be trying a new fashion choice or a new makeup
Mhm.
technique, or for me a meal.
Well, and I think that's important. It's like people wanna go to social media, but we're not yet at the point where people want to stay in social media. So they're still eager to go get something, but then get back into their everyday lives. And I think that is what these platforms want to encourage is like actionable things that you can share with your followers that are going to make them feel a certain way and then take that and implement it into their everyday lives.
It would be nice if in the long run social media more or less kind of just helped out reality, as opposed to trying to take you away from reality and create a new one. If it just enhanced it,
Sure. Well, it's
giving
this like conundrum though, because for these companies, they want you to stay there as long as possible. Hence, you look at the VR headphone or headsets. It's like they're wanting to pull you in more and more, but at the same time, if they push too hard, people back away further. So it's like finding this balance of like, we want your eyeballs, but we also understand you're not ready to be here all the time, you
Yeah,
know?
and I mean this is anecdotal, but with the headset, like the VR headsets, like you said, pushing too hard, they wanted that so bad,
Mm,
and I just don't think it materialized. I think they went a little
yeah.
too hard too early, and it'll be back.
Not to say they're not cool, but I just don't think the massive
They didn't get.
population
I mean,
embraced
I
it
know for a
as
fact they didn't get the adoption that they wanted. As far
right,
as like setting up, but I mean, their stock got crushed because they said we're going to sell 10 million of these things, and they sold 2
right.
million of those things. So,
Yeah.
but they are cool. We got a friend who uses one. He likes it. We got a couple neighbors that just got their kids them for Christmas. So
Yep.
people like them. I just don't think the masses are ready to completely just step out of reality and step into this new realm.
Virtual reality. Right.
Yeah.
No,
So I'm going to go
absolutely.
with augmented reality would be my pitch,
Oh, yes, excuse
as
me.
opposed to
Yeah.
the full VR. I still want to see.
Wait, the headsets are VR.
The headsets are virtual reality.
Okay.
Augmented reality would be like wearing your Ray-Bans and it displaying some bit of information on like a building as you walk.
Hmm.
So you're still looking and living in reality, but it's augmenting. It's giving you some.
That's kind of like there was some feature, maybe it was on an app where it was like you could walk around the city. This was in real life though, not like Google Maps. Like so you
Right.
had to actually be in the city, but it would tell you like facts about the building you were next to. It was kind of like a tour guide, virtual
Sure.
tour guide.
Perfect example of augmented reality.
Yeah.
All right. So TikTok, we said they want to bring joy. They want to keep it
Mhm.
light. They want to encourage you to go try things in the real world, whether
Mhm.
that's a new outfit or a recipe, etc. Any other takeaways that were the big kind of pillars there?
Yeah, I feel like that is kind of like what these platforms were echoing. The one I am curious to hear what their predictions are would be YouTube next. I haven't dove into that quite yet, but I feel like generally people are going into 2023 wanting it to be a positive year, as we all, as we do every year. You never know what's down the pipeline, but
Well, one anecdote that I was cooking and you were reading the report. Literally,
mhm.
this is like she's reading a report.
It was, yeah, like a 20-page TikTok's in-depth analysis, hashtags they expect, like
But what one of the so they talk some about marketing, and how brands are working with the social media companies,
right,
which we do. People are how do you make money doing social media? A lot of what we do is called brand deals, where we'll work with a particular brand, a grocer or a delivery service or an airline, and they will pay us money to basically shoot a commercial
sure.
within your feed,
A short
Instagram.
form personal commercial, essentially, yeah.
Right. So the anecdote that they gave was they took this company in Australia, and then they also had I think it was a TikTok user,
Mhm.
and they gave the company the normal budget to go shoot a TV spot, and they gave this
And
girl.
well, no, yeah, the company then also had just an influencer create a piece of content, and then they put the same amount of money behind promoting both the TikTok generated content and the brand created content on TikTok, and the influencer version wildly outperformed the
Yes, some of the stuff was
m
like, oh, it did
curated
8% better than the TV spot, which still is amazing because it
sure,
costs so much less to produce it. But
so
one of
much
them was
less.
like, 240% more, and it was the cost per click was the thing that they were looking.
Yeah.
So they were getting that much more traffic driven off of the
Well,
organic
and
kind
you
of
think,
TikTok thing.
like, to put it in perspective for everybody, it's like if you think about how many times you see a commercial on TV now, almost never, maybe only like large events. But those funds have shifted to social media marketing and, this creator generated content because we are the ones now creating commercials for these brands, whereas they used to produce them themselves for television. So that money has like essentially just moved onto these social platforms, which is why so many people are like eager to become quality creators.
I was gonna break into song, but I thought I was gonna butcher the lyrics of the Applebee's, the country song. Is it?
Don't even try.
No,
We
but was it like fancy, like Applebee's on a Tuesday?
yeah,
Is that the words?
yes, yeah.
But perfect example of, yeah, well, they made this song, but then the campaign was just they took, normal people's TikToks and Instagram reels and they just slapped them up on your TV. So
Yeah.
you're watching Monday Night Football and Applebee's on a
More
Tuesday.
and more brand commercials on TV are even featuring social media content in their mass media marketing.
Right. And that's always a struggle for us when we're doing a campaign with a brand and they'll
Mhm.
give us a brief. They're like, these are the type of things we want to talk about. And sometimes we feel we're guilty of making a produced commercial. We're like,
Sure.
it feels like that was a television commercial, that we're just
Mhm.
kind of, we do all this other content, this great travel content, funny content, but then we put this commercial and it feels like a commercial. I think what we're trying to do this next year, and that
Yeah.
these platforms want you to do, is make it almost imperceivable that this is a commercial,
Yeah.
that this is something
Which,
funny, something organic.
to our, defense, takes in influencing the brands to be acceptive to that type of content, because a lot of
They've got to
times,
let go a little bit.
right, like, they want to see a certain vision, and that's what they express to us to produce, and then if we, get off course from that and do something that feels a little bit more natural to our brand, sometimes they're like, "That's a little too adventurous." Like, they haven't accepted it as widely as, you know, clearly the consumers have.
Right. And some of the most difficult brand deals that we've done in our time doing this are the ones that have these briefs that just go on and on and on. It's just
Right.
bullet point after bullet point of the things they
I know
want you
the
to do.
name, but we won't say it,
Yeah,
but
no, that, I
yeah.
mean, that one comes to mind. There's a few that come to mind like that, but then there's other ones that are just kind of like,
Do
you
your
know,
thing. Yeah.
they tell you to do your thing. Like, here's the product, you be creative, and those are the most fun, and those typically
Mhm.
perform the best
And
for
those
both
are the
us and
brands
for
that
them.
you probably know from social media, because they have, like, embraced and allowed influencers to, like, run wild with their brands the way that they think meets their audience, and as long as you pick people who their audience mirrors your ideal clientele, then let them do their magic.
For sure.
All right, well, I feel like that was it.
That's a good conversation.
Yeah.
Episode 2 here, we hopefully have a few ahead of us, at least another 2 or
We're
3
trying
total
to get a
episodes.
feel for, like, how often we are gonna do this. I would ideally love to do it weekly, so I think that's gonna be our goal, at least for the next while.
Well, disclaimer. So we got some great positive feedback, mostly from our friends and family who downloaded and listened to this, you know, but what I want some people to know is, like, we tried to run a podcast last night and we trashed it. It was like
Yeah.
just throwing a
No,
piece of paper in the
I
wastebasket.
was
Like,
gonna say, like, it's worth being honest, like, there's other people out there trying to start podcasts, trying to, like, jump in on something new this year, and let that be your message, like, you will fail and it's okay, keep trying, and, go from there, but yeah, we were ended in tears last night, so it's
and not to mention, every time we do this technical difficulties, it takes us 30 or 40 minutes just to figure out how to get the
yeah.
microphones and the headphones to work. But we're getting better, which means there might be an episode 3 of Don't
Oh,
Mind While
yes.
While We Unwind.
We'll see you in 2023 for episode 3. Like that?
I can dig it. I
All
like
right,
it.
bye, y'all.